Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. I'm your host, Jordan Samuel Fleming, and today on the episode, I've got Andrew Lucas from Deal Finders Club. Andrew, not only has Andrew had a phenomenally interesting career as an investor, and we get into that, as someone who sort of started investing, built himself up to more than 100 units of holding 100 units and as rentals, built his own property management company to do that, but has also then created the Deal Finders Club, which is a way for his local community to really get started in real estate. It's a really fun conversation because not only do we, Andrew's been there, done it, lived it, done it as an investor, but then also now has taken that extra step of helping people realize their dream in real estate investment. So we get to touch on a lot of those little of those points. We dive into some of the mistakes he made and how he tries to get people to not avoid them or to avoid them, I should say, and not make them. And it's just a really fun conversation. As someone who, he clearly knows, he's been there, he's done it. And he also really enjoys helping people on their journey. I got a lot out of this. I learned a lot from Andrew, and I think you're really going to get a lot out of this episode. So let's dive right in. Okay, and I'm live here with Andrew Lucas from Deal Finders Club. Andrew, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
All right. Appreciate it, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you today. I plan on learning something from you today, so just so you know. But I am Andrew. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. My wife and I have been full-time investors since 2018. Started very much by accident, on purpose by accident in 2007. Purposely knew I wanted to invest in real estate, but didn't have any idea what I was doing, and ended up with a couple of houses that were not great. But anyway, we learned from some really smart people, got some coaches, some mentors, got connected with some people just like how we got connected to figure out the business. And now we own a property management company because we needed somebody to manage our 100 plus rentals. We flip houses. We have a real estate, like retail agency, brokerage type thing. We're a team. And then we teach people how to do exactly what we did. So that's where we are with Deal Finders Club and the Lucas group here in Columbia.
I mean, that hits a lot of different notes here. So I'm curious, as you say, the property management element, before we move on to Deal Finders, the property management element where I see a lot of people who are at the kind of, once they get sort of 20 units under their belt, mm-hmm. They have the, should I do it myself or should I go to a property management company? Very rarely do I hear the story of I'm just going to build my own property management company to deal with it all.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that's a very specific process. Property management is very process driven, from tenants, leasing to renewals to maintenance. How was that journey like?
Yeah. So, just had a conversation yesterday with our manager. And I told him, I said, the reason you're here is because I can't follow those rules. You have rules as property manager. I'm not good at following those rules. One of them, one of these property management rules, broker in charge, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's not me. I'm the entrepreneur. Maybe I know the rules, but I don't remember the rules and I'm not great at following them. So I'm not the property manager. However, when we first started, I used to manage hotels. That was my job. That's what I went to school for. I was in hospitality. So, managing tenants, it's like the same thing, right? It's just a guest that stays longer. Well, I kind of went with that for a while, but that quickly led to non-profitable real estate. Our rentals were not doing well. Of course, I was a people pleaser. I was being hospitable by not letting say, oh, you could pay a little later. I'm not going to charge you this fee. All the things that you do wrong. So, Michelle and I, we had 4 rental houses. like I said, that weren't doing well. That was just from buying and moving, buying and moving. And we had those going pretty terribly. And so she was pregnant, 7 or 8 months pregnant. We had 2 kids and we were painting one of those rentals. So it was doing a turn. We were painting it not lead based, oil based primer. Windows are open. She's pregnant. I'm like, yo, like we're doing this wrong, I think, honey. And so we looked at each other and we had a conversation of either we're going to do this right, treat it like a business and do it correctly, or we're selling these houses that aren't doing anything for us and we're just giving up on that, right? We'll just go be like everybody else. We'll work our jobs and that'll be it. But we knew, like, we just knew inside we were made for more than just doing the normal. So we decided to learn, get, hire some coaches, some mentors, read some books that are behind me here, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, all those books, and figure out how to make a business out of it. And one of the first things that I learned in those books is that I'm not a good property manager and I'm not good with making sure it's done right. I learned all the things I was doing wrong that could be, potential legal trouble at the end of the day. So we flipped a house, bought our next rental, which ended up being a 5-unit. And this is when we were deciding to make it a business. So when we got those 5, they had a property manager. And immediately I turned the other 4 over and never managed another one myself. And so that was 2016-ish. And here we are just this year. Finally, we've had over 100 units for the last 4 years or so and just buying and selling. And we finally decided that we were basically paying the same price to other managers as it would be to bring someone in. And it was time to get someone focused in doing the business the way we want, right? As when you hire property managers, they have their own business. I get it. They've got their own P&Ls to look after, their own other clients. And so we wanted our properties to be somebody's primary focus. And so we did that. And now that property management company is out growing and bringing in their own clients, right? So I still like to think we might be his primary focus, but now he has other clients to service. But at least we are on the front end, right? We know the person, we know the people that he's hiring. So our property management company is there to help other people, but they also have all of ours.
Yeah. No, it's such an interesting, the property management element is such a specific, based on states as well. There's very specific rules, eviction rules, and it is such a process heavy in a way that almost exceeds any of the real estate investment categories you can think of, whether you're doing a turn or they're like a lease renewal or any of that. It is such a process heavy bit that I think it's a specific mindset in some ways that enjoys that as well. It wouldn't be me, for instance.
Exactly.
I'd be sitting there going, I don't care, and throw it across the room.
Well, that's what we tell the investors that we help get started in the Deal Finders Club. That's the first thing I tell them is, for some reason, property management is romanticized out there for some, I don't know why, it's like, oh, I'm just, I'm going to collect rent and, I'll rent these houses out. I'll get all this cash flow. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but you can't be the property manager. If you want to be an investor, you can't also manage those properties because, like you said, the process, the legality, the things, the systems that you have to follow, or you open yourself up to one, either not managing it well, right? So you're not collecting as much rent as you should be. You're not effectively managing your tenants, or you open yourself up to legal issues because you don't follow all the rules that are set out there. And we did. I mean, we did end up with one lawsuit where someone fell, a sister of a tenant fell. Turns out that we didn't hear about it for 6 months, of course. But what I learned is that even though I wasn't a professional property manager, the fact that we were out there actively buying and flipping houses or buying rentals, they looked at us and they said, basically the attorneys are saying, hey, you may not be a professional. You don't have a license. You're not a professional property manager, but you're acting like one with this volume, right? You're out there investing. So even if you say, well, I don't have a license. I don't know that. I didn't know that. If you got taken to court, they would say you should have known that. And so at that point, we'd already been out of it for a while, and the case ended up settling. It wasn't our fault. It was nothing for us. You could be sued for anything, but that was one of those things that opened our eyes too. It's like you're out there. If you're out there actually investing and doing this a couple of houses a year, the court is going to look at you like you're a professional and you should have known better. And yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that on me. So if
No.
anybody's listening, get a property manager and get a good property manager, one that treats it like a business.
I have found one of the things that I have found over the years is that the property value, like a good property manager will keep the value of your property really well.
Yeah.
And will really focus on it. Not, I took your point about, your background in hospitality and sort of, if you're trained in hospitality, you're trying to go beyond, right? Like you're trained to give even more, but a good property manager is going to make sure that your property's value is maintained.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really critical bit, because if you don't have someone in there, yes, you have an asset, but it's an asset that's possibly not going to be holding the value you want it to, if you just had someone who was really looking after it as an asset that matters.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's got to be from the hospitality world. It's knowing when to say when. Knowing that you're providing safe, secure housing, and you're taking care of if you take care of those tenants, the property value will go up and be better because you don't miss months of rent. But there's also a line that you draw and say, we can't go out and do everything for you. This is still your place. You still rent it. You still have to pay the rent and take care of the things you're supposed to take care of, right? So that was one of the things that I wasn't very good at. I didn't have clear, defined lines and rules, and everything would just bleed. Everything would just go, oh, whatever. This is, I'll do that this time, or I'll do that, and that was not. It's not profitable at the end of the day. So yeah, most investors, I think, if you're really truly like that entrepreneur investor going out doing deals, you're probably not the best property manager if you were honest with yourself.
Absolutely. Now let's dig in a little to the Deal Finders Club.
Sure.
At what point did you sort of decide that was the direction you wanted to go? What was the instigating factor there?
Yeah. So what happened was back in 2015-16, where Michelle and I said that we'd like to do this as a business, we kind of looked around at what was available. And when I was in hospitality, I was the chairman of the board of the hotel association in our state, and I was on the governor's council for emergency housing. Like I was connected into like the hub of info, and if I needed something, I could pick up the phone and I would call somebody and they could help. There was a lot of things, a lot of benefits that came from those connections, whether like monetary, like we knew when good things were coming to town, or if there were groups coming, we were connected with the people in charge, or hiring people, right? If there's a good candidate in town, we would know, hey, they're looking. So just being in that hub was just beneficial for mine and Michelle's day job back then. And so we looked for that in real estate, and it was not in our community. It just was not there. There were some old school, the old RIA, where everybody comes for a month and they get sold all day, all night long. There's no real community. There's nothing really there to like benefit each other. Everyone was just kind of there for themselves. Mm-hmm. And We didn't like it. We said that wasn't for us. So at my hotel days, and don't tell my old bosses this, but when I knew when like the writing was on the wall, I knew I was going to be leaving soon. Yeah, I may have even told them at this point, but we started having a lunchtime meetup. I just would say, "Hey, y'all come to the hotel. I'm going to buy pizza, and we're just going to have lunch and talk real estate." So that began that community. Once I finally left the day job in 2018, we started a true event style meetup. So every single month we had an event where I would teach or someone would come in and teach, and we created a community of investors for that exact thing. For us, one big thing was to find more deals, to find good contractors, to find funding, all the pieces that come from getting to know other people that are doing the business. And once we started that, it started going really well. A lot of attendees, a lot of connections being made. And it wasn't long. I mean, maybe a month or two from starting that people started asking us to show them how to invest, how we got from 4 to 34 rentals in 2 years, and how we continue to flip houses and buy rental property and build our portfolio. And we were not, I didn't feel like we were qualified to teach it because we were still learning ourselves. I was being taught by our mentors. But finally, a couple people convinced us. Freddie's, who's a good friend of ours, who has a great business going now. He took me to lunch at Chick-fil-A and he's like, "Look, just help me do this, help me do that." So finally I relented, started helping him. And from there, we learned, how to help people get started, how to go through all the things, the growing pains that we did. We help people skip those lessons and really go down into the investing world with some guardrails, right? So we share the good, the bad, the ugly, and we help people connect with their lenders, with their contractors, and all that. So really getting people started in the business. We do a lot of events. We do a lot of outreach for the local community that's just totally free to get connected and start building your base of your business. But when people want more help, they come to us, and we do, we have a program or we partner with them or whatever that looks like. So it's been great. It's really, for me, it's been more rewarding to see our community of investors grow and be successful. So.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I wanted to make sure you knew that Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors, connects to the best-in-class real estate investing CRMs. And because, as it's my show and I am co-founder and chairman of Smartphone, I got some great deals for you. Click the link and take advantage of 5,000 minutes free calling with Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors. Click and call. Close more leads. Back to the show. And really start to become, I've loved watching over the years, when you watch groups of people sort of start and think they may want to,
Yeah.
and you've got, the dream is there, the knowledge and ability isn't yet. And then to watch them transform from that to maybe people who are getting to the point where they're building a proper business, right? That doesn't happen right away. But you don't start. Most people, particularly in real estate, I think, start as dreamers and they just looking for that first deal. And then you get to the point where you have, oh gosh, I've got to actually have a business here because I'm doing enough volume and money. Like if I'm doing $1 million a year, this is a business. Like this is a business that needs to be well thought of and that needs to be protected and all that, to then scaling even more. And that journey where you can, I think one of the benefits of the real estate community in general is that there has been a focus of these communities, whether it's Deal Finders Club or other masterminds that have, a focus on getting people through that journey. What do you think? Just thinking about that journey from very beginning to I won't go to the top bit because the top bit is like a very small percent of people and get to that top bit.
Yeah.
But getting to the point where you can make a professional go of it, more people do. What do you think is where do you think the change is, if it's in volume or money or anything? Where do you think that changes for the most part, having seen so many people go through it?
Yeah.
And where do you think some of the pitfalls are that stop people from getting to that professional bit?
Yeah. So that's a really good question because I think when I say this, it'll surprise a lot of people that you really don't, the volume is so low to become a professional in real estate. And the reason is because the margins per deal can be so high. And, I mean, you could flip a house, do one house and make as much as the average, whatever American makes in a year, right? And it could be done with one. So just imagine doing 3 in a year. That you do that while you're still working your day job. So that's what our program has focused on. The last 2 years, we started something where we partner. It's a partnership program, and we help people that are most of them are currently working a job. Some of them have been laid off or like have just retired, and show them how to flip 3 houses in a year while still doing your life. So truly it's an add-on. It doesn't take, you're not swinging hammers, right? We're not going in and doing demo, even though that's sometimes fun. We're not doing it ourselves because, as a business, you can't do all that, right? And so if you just do 3, and it doesn't matter what market you're in, right? If you're in the South here, 3 deals might be $100,000 a year paycheck, which if you add that on to what you're already doing, it's game changer, right?
It changes your life.
It changes your life. And when I say that, like 3 deals, that is so attainable. And so going from the brand new newbie, never done anything, into professional mode, really, if you can do 3, you start to begin, you look like a professional in the eyes of the lenders, and that opens up the floodgates. So once you have 3 under your belt, the lenders for like hard money, private money, they will see you as a professional. They'll say, "Oh, you've done this. You're successful. I'll lend you more money." And then it's just up.
And then
Yeah.
then it's rinse, wash, repeat. I mean, I mean, whether it's Burr or another model, repeat, repeat, repeat. Let me ask you, I would be remiss if I didn't ask this, given this is the name of this podcast is That Real Estate Tech Guy. And the reason I started the podcast is because what I know, and I started it years ago, and then I let it lapse for a bit, and now I've restarted it for the reason being that AI is now in here, and technology is something that is so embedded into the real estate investor process to let people scale.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you think of your own journey as an investor, are there any kind of mistakes that you made with technology that you could maybe stop someone else making? Is there a big mistake you've made with technology and please don't say smartphone, huh? But what would be what you'd class as a mistake you've made with real estate technology?
Yeah, I think the number one mistake that it's so easy to make because it's small little cuts, small little expenses, but getting every piece of tech and paying for all these fees over and over and over again, because it's so easy to jump in and say, "Oh, this is the best, this is the best, and this is the best, and you need this and you need that," right? And understanding and again, you asked my mistakes. These are my mistakes. Yeah. Understanding that they're going to be different. They're all going to be a little different, but what is the function that it's going to serve, and get down to how is it actually going to serve you today, not tomorrow. So the tech that you use should come in because you broke the last piece of tech, right? It is kind of, one of my mentors says this, and I'm butchering the way he says it, but basically you work with what you have now. So very beginner, your first time flipper, and you don't have a deal yet. You don't need
You don't need anything.
you don't need anything. You just need
You don't need it. You need a spreadsheet or a
yeah.
piece of paper. One deal. I've always said, do not invest in technology until you start. My rule is don't invest until you start spending money on marketing.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the first piece of tech is something to help with marketing usually, or, to catch the calls or to send the calls out, right? It's going to be one of those. And so when that phone melts because you got people calling to that and you're like, you know what? I could use another number. I don't need everybody calling my cell phone. They should go here. That's when you invest in that tech. And then that CRM comes in probably the same time, but it's not the CRM, the Cadillac CRM that does everything and has space for 10 employees. It's the basic CRM that just helps you keep track. It's a step up from the spreadsheet. And so, if you go in with that mode from the beginning, you won't be overpaying. You won't be getting lost in your tech where, you spend more time trying to figure it out or trying to be cute with the tech and you're not actually doing deals. So, that's the biggest thing is don't move on to the next. Don't get the new piece, the new shiny thing until you've broken that one before.
Well, I think that suits really well. That advice suits really well, as well for the. My second question on this is usually what best advice you have on how to integrate technology into your business. I think you've just nailed that one as well. But let's look at that. Let's look at that person who maybe has just started spending on marketing. So they've done a one or two deals. They've gotten their kind of, the shakedown because you gotta learn, you gotta shake it down, and you're starting to think maybe I can do 5 or 6 deals. Maybe I can actually do a deal a month, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the technology, as you've scaled your business, what would be 3 technology types of products whether it's CRM for whatever
Yep.
that you would recommend when you start to think about scaling and actually building? What are 3 technology products that you'd recommend you start with?
Yeah. So I'll try to be basic and not, not any brand or anything like that. But the what we just kind of talked about is the marketing. So whether or not you're going to source your own lists or you're going to do your own marketing. So if you're going to do your own and pull your own lists and leads, then you need a great data provider. So data, spend money on data if you're going to do your own. If you are going to outsource it, then let them do it. You don't need to pay for data if someone else is pulling your list. That's another thing that people go and like, oh, I got this data provider, but I don't actually use the data. So spend the money on data for good marketing. And then when it comes in, when the phone calls come in or you go out, depending on how you do your marketing, spend the money on the phone and that, smartphone. I'm not giving you a plug, but I'm giving you a plug, which is paying and having a good service that is reliable and that they will make those connections, right? Those calls won't get lost. They don't go to some phantom box that you don't know how to access. So having a good phone service is paramount because you're going to pay for the marketing. And if every dollar if you don't catch those phone calls or the calls that you're making out don't connect, you might as well just light dollar bills on fire. And then the next one, the next piece that goes with that is the CRM. How are you going to keep up with those calls, the leads, the people, the contacts? Because yes, we do get deals in the first contact. We do have people that call us and like, I just want 20 grand. And I'm like, okay, where are you? I'm coming to sign it. We get that, but very rare. So we have to keep up with them, keep up with their email, phone number, name, address, all that, because you have to follow up. And then that CRM just has to keep track of them. It doesn't have to follow up by itself. It doesn't have to go and be an AI generated bot. It just needs to tell you that it's time to follow up.
And I think that's such a great point because one of the, and it goes to something you said earlier, the shiny key syndrome is very live in the real estate investment community. And I think, people follow that a lot. And you hear people talk all the time about new leads over the importance of following up on the ones they've already got. And that is, and we all know that, yes, to your point, yes, there are those unicorns that happen, like one call, great deal, closed, done. But
Yeah.
that's not all the time. And usually you're keeping track, you're following up, you're coming back. And the amount of people who have won deals 7 months later, 8 months later, because they've kept that because buyers change, their motivation changes, their circumstances change, sellers, sorry, everybody changes. And without that follow up, you miss so much. So I think your point is incredibly valid for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also loved your data point. It's funny, I mentioned earlier that I just written a book. The first chapter in that book, which is ostensibly a book about the phone, about how to use the phone as a real estate investor. But the
Yeah.
first chapter is actually all about data,
Mm.
because bad data sets you at the absolute, like I think I say in the book, if you send your team your sales team out with bad data, you're essentially sending them into the battlefield with one arm behind their back.
Yeah.
And I think your point of data being critical, and something I always say, do not skimp on your data. If you just want to buy crap data, you are going to spend a lot of money and get crap results.
Yeah, absolutely. And ask me how I know. We have proof. We have proof that bad data will turn your business on a dime. You can go from, our postcards, for example, is a 1.5% answer rate into like a 0.5%, where it's just bad data. If the postcard doesn't show up at the right place, then you're not getting a phone call, right? Or if we had an example of data that was going to people that had already sold. We got some crazy number. I don't remember. This was a year and a half ago, but everybody was calling back. It was like, hey, we already sold that house. We don't own it anymore. And we looked, and we're like, all of these just sold a couple weeks ago or whatever. It was like, this is not good. This is bad. This is bad data. But it can eat your lunch. I mean, just the amount of money, time, energy is wasted on that.
The fundamentals, people always look for the shiny, the sexy, the guaranteed this and all that. But ultimately, to your point, everything usually comes down to the fundamentals. Doing the fundamentals well means you can build a solid, sustainable business. And there really, I can't think of a time when that's not been true.
Yeah.
Across almost every bit. I mean, I'm in the software business, and I can tell you that the business fundamentals, the fundamentals of how you build a business, is not really any different.
Yeah.
It all still works out that way.
Yeah. 100%. And one of the fundamentals that, and since we're talking tech, this is the thing that gets in front of like the number one fundamental, which is revenue. You need revenue. You need to make a sale or make a purchase. The number one thing I see for especially beginners get in between them and revenue is tech, because they're playing around with, it's so pretty, right? All this stuff looks so pretty online, and it feels good. It feels like I'm moving. It feels like I'm doing something. Because look, my new website is
my spreadsheet, my graph looks good.
Yeah, yeah, but there's no revenue. So, don't let that be your trap.
I actually, I gotta say, I had a conversation the other day with John Nolan, and we were talking about, because we're both technology providers, right? We're at our heart, and we've got a big reporting center, that he's got a reporting center, and we were talking about paralysis that happens when people are focused on the pretty graphs as opposed to what the graphs really are about, which is the outliers, which is the identification of the problems, or conversely, the bits that are really working well. So you want to dial those things up instead of just being like, look at all the, and I think people get data paralysis sometimes of like, I'm going to spend the week analyzing the data. Well, really? Because you could be making calls and closing some sales.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Well, Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. First of all, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is the first time you and I have actually gotten a chance to meet. So it's a pleasure to meet you. Now, before we close, how do people find you? How do people, let everybody know how they can get in touch and find you?
Yeah. So the best way is our Facebook group. So it's REI Deal Finders in the groups. So just search that on Facebook. I am the Andrew R. Lucas on socials. And so you can find us there. And I will even drop my phone number because, as you know, it's a tech-enabled phone number, so it's not going to blow my cell phone. But if you want me, you can text me there. It's 803-216-5750. And you can catch me in any of those places.
Well, I will make sure I put all of those into the show notes. Please do check out Andrew. He's got a lot of valuable insight to give you. Andrew, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on today's podcast.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.